the discussion between the macronutrient and the micronutrient in this conversation, because it's a really important conversation. Like, people say, oh, but there's, not sugar's not bad. And they're right. Sugar's not bad. Sugar's not the enemy. Refined sugar in large quantities is the enemy. Let's be specific, because we have the words and the ability to be specific. You could have 100 calories of raw, refined sugar that's still 100 calories, and you could have 100 calories of dates. Okay, 100 calories of sugar from dates. Now, both have the same amount of sugar, the same amount of carbohydrates, but one is only sugar and only gives you energy and macronutrients. The other one has vitamin A, potassium, magnesium, and all of these other minerals and vitamins that help your body as cofactors for a whole lot of functions that your body needs to be able to survive and to live a long and energy-filled life. So that's the difference between micro and macro. It's the same energy that's going to go in as 100 calories. And if you're looking at deficit in calories, it's still 100 calories, but one works like a workhorse, and it sends potassium here and magnesium here and vitamins here and all that kind of stuff. And the other one just gives you a sugar rush.
So let's just, we'll introduce this so people know what we're talking about. So, hey guys, welcome back. This is part 2. Part 1, we spoke about how you can have your cake and eat it too. And if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to that, watch that. Ty dropped some knowledge bombs in there saying that, strategically speaking, scientifically speaking, we need to spike our calories at least once every 7 days. Ty suggests do it twice. And once every 4 weeks, have a complete strategic refeed week. So go back, listen to that. So if you're feeling guilty about having a so-called cheat day, now we're going to change the mindset on that. It's now a strategic refeed day. So that is how you can have your cake and eat it too. In this part, I want to talk about what type of cake you can have and when you can eat it too. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because in last episode, Ty mentioned things about Pop-Tarts. And if you want your Pop-Tarts, absolutely amazing. But there's...
I don't think I said
no. Sorry, mate. You caught me off. But if you want your Pop-Tarts, you can go and have your Pop-Tarts.
If having the Pop-Tart, if me not allowing you to have the Pop-Tart means that you fall off the wagon completely and I never see you again, and you don't reach your weight loss goal, and you don't reach the goal, and you don't become the person that you in this world can become, I want you to have the Pop-Tart. But there are better options than the Pop-Tart.
Yes. So this one, we're going to talk about the better options. And just to give you guys some context inside Unrivaled DNA's reporting, you'll see a massive page there. It's about your nutrient summary. They're your micronutrients. Now, to break things up, nutrition can be a very, very complex topic. And what we need to do is to sometimes teach the complexities without, I have 14 years experience in this. So without just giving you the 14th year of my experience to a person in prep, you need to take them on a bit of a journey. You need to teach them to crawl before they walk and walk before they run. They need to be able to do division before they do multiplication. So sometimes it's easier to explain to people the surface level of a calorie is a calorie. That is kind of also frustrates me, because a calorie is not just a calorie. There is so much more. So then people go, excellent. What's my next step on just a calorie? Hang on 2 seconds. My next step is, I'm on a roll. My next step is a macronutrient. So what's more than a calorie? Macronutrients. Perfect. What are they? They're my proteins, my carbs, and my fats. Beautiful. So as long as I hit my macros for the day, I'm going to get better results than if I was just to train or eat just to a calorie base. Yes. And the reason that being is because you could have, say, 2,000 calories of just peanut butter all day, every day. Now, to me, that is almost heaven. And I'm sure if you're listening here and you like peanut butter, you're like, hell yeah, baby. Is that in my DNA? I hope so. But yes, that may just hit your calorie needs. But it's only going to hit, or it's not going to hit your macronutrient needs of your proteins, your fats, and your carbs. And in fact, probably peanut butter wasn't the best option because they do contain all proteins, fats, and carbs. But let's just say you were to have bacon fat all day, every day. That's just fat, right? So if you were to then eat to your macros, your proteins, fats, and your carbs, you're going to get more variety into your diet. You're going to have the protein enough to sustain growth or repair, both muscle, tendon, ligament, hair, skin, nails. All of our repair and growth comes from our protein and the building blocks of amino acids. Then you have your carbs. You know, you've got your carbs for either instant release energy, or you're going to save it for a rainy day. And that comes on through a hormone called insulin. It's your storage hormone. You eat carbs. Insulin tells your body whether we're going to store it or we're going to burn it. Very general overview here, guys. And then we have fat. And fat doesn't necessarily get converted to body fat. Again, it kind of depends on the type of fat. For example, there's pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory. Let's just go on fat, for example. You can have an avocado, say 100 grams of avocado. On a calorie level, it is the same as 100 grams, arbitrary number, 100 grams of fat from avocado versus 100 grams of fat from canola oil. On a calorie level, they're both the same. On a macro level, they're both 100 grams. What happens is completely different on the hormonal level. So a calorie is not just a calorie. A macro is not just a macro. You've got to go deeper than that. So the canola oil, the hydrogenated oil, is pro-inflammatory. That is going to cause an inflammation response inside your body. That could be excess fat gain. That could be swelling. That could be inflammation in the brain and bring on headaches. That could be decreasing your recovery time. Anything that is going to be a pro-inflammatory. More than likely, it's going to add fat around your stomach. Your avocado, 100 grams, is anti-inflammatory. It's going to help to decrease the inflammation in your body. It's going to fuel your brain for performance. And it's going to help you recover because it's got other quite essential nutrients in there, such as vitamin E, which is an antioxidant. So yes, on the surface level, a calorie is a calorie is a calorie, but it's not. Yes, on a macro level, a macro is a macro, but it's not. You've got to go deeper than that. So in this episode, I want Ty, because I've done enough talking right now, I want you to explain the difference between going out and having your cake and eating it in part one, and going out to the local cafe. Let's give them a plug. Where did we go in Albury?
We got a Dash Espresso Bar, and Dee at Dash Espresso Bar makes some amazing raw treats, and they taste as good as her caramel slice. You would swear had to be made from refined sugar, but no, alas, no. She's a wizard.
So let's give some context of having a we'll call them, say, a raw treat, because that gives people an image of what we're talking about. Something that's made with non-refined sugars. So maybe it's used some dates and some crushed up nuts and some coconut oil as the base. You've got some sort of like coconut oil and cacao, something in there to make the chocolate, and they gel that together in a beautiful way, versus having a muffin from Mrs. Muffins.
Well, I was going to interject a while ago, but you're on such a roll, and when Matt gets on a roll, you can't, like a dog with a bone, you just can't get it off him. And he's 100% right. So we don't end up being a soundbite all over Instagram and Facebook about these two guys here saying a calorie is not a calorie from the If It Fits Your Macro crew and all that kind of stuff. A calorie is a unit of measurement of energy that foods have. And so a calorie is a calorie. However, the body's response to each calorie is different. So I just want that sound grab to be out in the world. So, and I said it. So if Lane Norton or anyone else in the If It Fits in Macro crew come out and say this is, say it's calorie. A calorie is always, it's a unit measurement, and the calorie is a calorie. However, the body's response to different calories hormonally, enzymatically, it is all different. And it could be the difference between you waking up and having sustained energy for the whole day, or sticking to an negative energy balance and reaching your weight loss goals. So yeah, I totally agree with exactly what Max said. It's just I want there to be a soundbite out in the wide world web that said that a calorie is a calorie in terms of measurement, but the response of the body is completely different. And you've got, you know, what do you say, Mrs. Muffin's muffin? It's full of refined sugar, white flour, all of that kind of stuff. And if it's got 200 calories in this muffin, it's basically just got 200 calories. It doesn't have anything else. There's nothing else that makes that up apart from the flour, the sugar. It's just a macronutrient with nothing else to offer your body apart from energy. That's all it has. If you've got the raw treat that the Wizard D has made from Das Espresso Bar, it can have 200 calories in it. All right. So you can have the treat. If your goal is to try and bump your calories up so you can have a structured refeed day, you can have both of these options. However, this raw treat that's been sweetened with dates has the potassium and the vitamins in it that the dates have to be able to help you with sustained energy and immunity, and all of the, you look at your micronutrient list on your DNA report, and there are so many of them. This is what natural products have that the refined products don't have. It helps you hit your micronutrient numbers on a day-to-day basis. So you can have the treat that tastes as good, trust me on this, as the muffin, but you get all of these other micronutrients and vitamins that help your body function, you know, from day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when we actually talk about, you know, and this is to go back to people teaching calories. Awesome. You guys, we need you to teach calories to help you to get to our level. I need you to go from prep to grade 1 to grade 2 to graduate VCE and come into our university, you know? So they do a great job. And same thing with the macros. The issue I have with just counting macros, if it fits your macros, people will force feed themselves just to hit a certain number. Now, when we talk about hormones, right, when we actually talk about that at every cellular action, there is an action or reaction. Every cellular intersection or chemical reaction, there's an action and a reaction. Any one of those actions or reactions is a hormonal response to something. So our hormones are the ones that are in control. So yes, you eat your food and you think, oh, I'm just eating less, or I'm exercising more, or whatever your mindset is, but it's your hormones that are dictating where, how you lose body fat and how fast. So when we talk about if it fits your macros and you're eating late at night because you need to have an extra 50 grams of X, or it's not going to be that much, but just arbitrary numbers. You need to get an extra 50 grams of fat, and you just start eating peanut butter at 10 o'clock at night because you didn't hit your numbers. Hormonally speaking, you are so far off the grain. You are so far off the grain there. You are blunting your leptin response. You're blunting your ghrelin response, which is our hunger hormone. So if we want to talk about metabolism, go back to part 1. You want to know the hormones responsible for that. The main two are ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin's easy to remember because it makes your tummy grumble, grrr, like I'm hungry. And then leptin's just the opposite. Leptin's the satiating hormone. And then when we talk about having a muffin from Mrs. Muffin's Muffin Factory versus Dee's delicious dish, when you have something that is just 200 calories of refined carbohydrates, that triggers a hormone inside us called insulin, which I just spoke about before. And to give you the very basics of it, it's a storage hormone. Do we burn it? Do we use it? Pretty much the catalyst there. Now, how can you, my question is, now we've spoken about what to have. Now let's talk about when to have it. How can you take advantage of the hormonal responses from foods? So if, Ty, let's be real, if you can't go to Dee's delicious dishes and you are trapped in Mrs. Muffin's Muffin Factory, how could you potentially have that muffin and hack your hormone response so you don't necessarily store that as energy?
Look, this is completely unscripted, and we're always unscripted. That's the beauty of these things. And I'm not even sure if I'm going to go down a rabbit hole that you wanted me to go down. But if I've got a choice personally, with the experience I've had and the hacking that I've done to my body and I've got the choice to just have that muffin, I'm having that around an intense workout. Simple as that. Simple as that. I'm either having it before or after. Hell, I'll eat it during. I don't care. Insulin will help. A high insulin response will help muscle growth. You're going to burn it because you need the energy right there rather than store it. So you give me an option to eat that muffin, and I really want the muffin, I'm taking it to the gym.
Yeah, mate, you couldn't have said it best. You want to eat those type of foods, high carbohydrate foods. So whenever you're having your cake and you're eating it too, let's actually take that one step further. Ideally, you go quality, you go the micronutrients, right? But if that's too much for you, and sometimes you're only caught and you're hanging out with people in prep in grade 1, and you want to go calories and macros, and you're at Mrs. Muffins, you want to eat those type of foods, whether it be a muffin, whether it be a Subway sandwich, whether it be a pizza or a burger and some chips. You want to eat those when you are more sensitive to insulin. If you are insulin sensitive, your body can use that fuel versus storing it. There's trouble or problems arise when we become insulin resistant. So think of this, an analogy off the top of my head. Insulin is like a security bouncer at a nightclub. And it's 9 o'clock in the evening, and we want the club to be full as fast as we can, so it makes us look more prestige and we've sold out our club tonight. So the security aren't that tough on whoever they let in. So that is like insulin. Insulin is your security gatekeeper. It's letting the carbohydrates into the muscles to fuel the cells. It's allowing the patrons, the carbohydrates into the muscle, which is the venue, to fuel the cells, which is to buy the alcoholic drinks. Oh, that was a good analogy. What happens is when the club is full, because we're only allowed a certain amount, we can only have so many people in the patrons in our premises because of licensing fees. Same thing inside our muscles. We can only store so much carbohydrate. So what happens is our insulin now shuts the door. Now we're no longer open. So what happens, it's a 1 out, 1 in policy. We need someone to exit the building, hopefully not too drunk, so we can let the next person back in. We need to expend 1 unit of energy through burning the carbohydrates, through, say, for example, exercise or fasting or however that may do, to let the next one in. The problem happens, guys, is when your gatekeepers shut the door and you keep consuming carbohydrate-rich foods, which means patrons are now lining up down the corner, around the corner, through the block, you become what's called insulin resistant. Now we're resistant. Now we're pushing back against the carbohydrates. Now what happens is these people can't get into the club, and now they're just drunken idiots on the street causing a mess. Now this mess inside you leads to health problems such as diabetes, leads to health problems such as hypertension, leads to problems such as weight gain, leads to problems such as PCOS. All right, if you struggle with PMS or PCOS, insulin resistance is terrible for that. So to fix that, become more sensitive. And a whole other health problems that you guys are probably experiencing. We go through our hormonal reset. Insulin is one of the major hormones that we focus on inside the hormonal reset. And people report their sleep, their skin, their sense of smell, their eyes, of course, their weight, their energy, everything improves when we can get insulin working for us. We want the doors open so we can come in and then we can burn it. So when we do exercise, just to wrap this back up to my point of why I sometimes waffle and go on a tangent, is we want to be sensitive. So how do we become sensitive to insulin? We can do it a couple of ways. One of them is high intensity exercise, because you burn your muscles. You're burning the patrons inside. They're drinking everything and the drinks have run out. And so they're starting to leave the building. That's what happens when you exercise. So therefore you can allow the next group of people in. The other way that you can do it is through an example such as fasting. Maybe not necessarily a 16-hour fast, but definitely a 24-hour fast. Your insulin sensitivity goes through the roof. But you can also hack your fast by doing a 16-hour fast, and just before you break it, you do a high-intense workout. So back to Mrs. Muffin's Muffin Factory. If you want to have your muffin, if you want to have your pizza, burgers, potato chips, whatever that is, if you can do it at a time where you are more sensitive to insulin, which means there's no patrons in the club because you've burned them all either through exercise or just through natural activities throughout the day, or consuming less carbohydrates, so you're consuming less and expending more, that would be the time where your body then doesn't go, cool, my doors are shut, we're going to store this as excess body fat for that period of famine, which you spoke about in part 1. How did I go there, dude?
Yeah. Perfect. I mean, I was just thinking about how I'm going to get in the club. I might have to round up a couple of girls, and they always get in during a group of girls. So I'm just trying to figure out how to get in the club. I always get kicked out. Man.
It's because you're a machine. Because you work out every day. That's why. So let's wrap it up. Have you got any closing takeaways for the listeners here?
Look, the overarching theme of this should be that the only dangerous diet is the one that's not sustainable for the rest of your life. And so if you want to have Mrs. Max muffins or whatever, 20, on one day, and you can sustain your DNA type nutrition plan on the rest of the days, I'm cool with that. The better option is to then go to a raw treat and get some actual micronutrients that are going to help you and help your body to get the goal. And I'm sure everyone listening to this goals are saying it's for health, longevity, and vitality. They're the 3 things we're here for. So having the raw treat with the micronutrients, the vitamins and the minerals is going to help you align with that goal. However, if you can't get the muffin out of your head, if the ice cream's just singing all too loud, if the sirens, if the voices are just too ethereal and it just drags you towards them, then have that muffin when you're insulin sensitive. Around workouts, fasting. Another one is apple cider vinegar of cinnamon before you consume it. Even doing 100 air squats or doing some squats before, it doesn't even need to be high intensity, has been shown to increase insulin sensitivity. So, look, you can have your cake and eat it too. There are better cakes to choose. But if having the cake means that you're going to be sustainable for the rest of your life, hell, I'll even bake it for you.
That's awesome, man. What a really nice way to finish up. That's it. Perfect. There you go, guys. If you haven't done your DNA report, or if you haven't done your DNA test yet, find out all of your answers by doing your DNA test. It will uncover foods to consume, foods to avoid. It will give you your daily targets. It will tell you your micronutrient needs on that day or for every day. So you just need to really follow the recipe. And if you want to go off the recipe, it's okay to do that. We can teach you how, and hopefully you've learned something new now, because at the end of the day, consistency trumps perfection. Yep. We spoke in part 1 about the study, or Ty mentioned in part 1 about people 2 years post a diet had put weight back on. We spoke about the, what was that word you reminded me of in part 1? About compliance. The compliance that you have when you're on your DNA, when you are empowered to know, hey, this food suits me better versus than that food, I can still go out to the restaurant. If you don't metabolize red meat and you need more omega-3, you can look at the menu and you are now empowered to choose the fish option. For example, you might choose salmon over steak. But if you wanted to go the steak option, then you would know, then that's totally cool and it's a conscious choice. So having that empowerment gets you to stay on track for longer, because your diet shouldn't change. Neither does your genetics. And we're in it for the long game. If you're in it for the short game, if you're in it for a quick fix, an 8-week challenge, you want to lose 10 kilo in 10 weeks, and then 10 weeks later, put 10 kilo back on, and then 10 weeks after that, you're pushing an additional 10 kilo, you're not the right type of person for us.
Simple.
Thanks so much for your time, Ty. Really enjoyed that chat.
It was good, man. Anytime.
Do you want to do the sign off?
I forget the sign off. Did I create the sign off?
You created the sign off.
Yeah, but you're so good at it.
Just remember, guys, we want to take one step at a time, 1% at a time. And if you're new to this and you don't know what we mean by 1% at a time, how can you be 1% better than yesterday? How can you be 1% better tomorrow? Can you be 1% more caring? Can you show 1% more compassion to your relationship, to your boss, to your colleagues, to yourself? Can you do one extra sit-up? Can you eat one less muffin from Mrs. Muffin's muffin factory? But even a 1%, guys, doesn't have to be one less. It could be half less, one bite less. Could you leave one bite of food on your plate versus finishing it then going for seconds? Just be 1% better than yesterday. And guys, if you don't know what to do, if you're stuck, just do something. Thanks, guys. Much love. See ya.